Hey everyone, so I'm currently recording this at 3:45 a.m. so I'm trying to not be too loud. Why did I choose to record this video at this time? I don't know. If you saw my recent video about my watch collection, you guys will know that I have acquired the Longines Spirit Zulu Time 1925 about a month ago now. Now I have to clarify that I didn't buy this watch, it was actually a gift from my family. My family were very recently in Switzerland and they were at Buchera. They basically asked me what watch brands I was looking at, so I told them either Tudor or Longines, and then they went to Longines and then I sent them a photo of this watch and they did have one in stock, so they helped me buy it, and I wasn't expecting them to buy it for me. I just wanted to know the prices, but they ended up buying it for me. So just so it's out there, I didn't pay for it, but it is part of my collection and it is my watch. I feel like Longines is such an interesting brand to me because Longines for the past maybe 4 to 5 years has just been non-stop making really good watches in their pillars and collections. Whether it be the Conquest line that was refreshed a few years ago, the Zulu Time obviously that was out about maybe 3 or 4 years ago with the 42mm version first, and then now with the 1925 variant, it's actually my personal favorite Longines Spirit Zulu Time variant. There's a bunch of reasons why I really like this watch, and so we'll get into that. Now, if you guys are seasoned watch collectors, you guys have already heard non-stop about the Longines Spirit Zulu Time. It's a very popular Longines model right now. In fact, it's probably their best-selling collection alongside the standard Conquest model. It's just such a great value traveler's GMT, which you just really don't get at this price point. But this 1925 variant is a bit special. For those of you who don't know the history, Longines is widely accepted to be the first brand to have invented the very first wristwatch that can track 2 time zones. Now, the Zulu Time collection is already a callback to that, since the original model was also called the Zulu Time. It was called the Zulu Time because it actually had the Zulu flag on it. The reason why this 1925 variant is special is because it celebrates the 100-year anniversary of the original Zulu Time. Another thing I should point out is that as far as I'm aware, this 1925 variant is not a limited edition. It is part of the standard collection, and as far as I'm aware also, it's not a limited production. I've seen on Reddit some people have said otherwise, whether some sales associates have told them that it's a limited production, but based on my research, there has been no indications from Longines directly that it's a limited production or limited edition, so I think this is going to stay in the collection for a while. Don't feel like you have to rush out to buy it if you're really looking for one, and I'm sure you can find one on the used market somewhere at some point as well. But okay, getting into the watch. Just like all of the other 39mm variants, this is pretty much unchanged. It has a 39mm case with a 47mm lug-to-lug, though that does have a caveat which I'll talk about later with the bracelet. But the biggest differentiator for this version are the rose gold accents as well as the rose gold cap bezel. Now, it is 18 karat rose gold, so it is genuine gold, but it isn't full gold, instead it is gold capped. If you're not sure what gold cap is, it's basically like plating, but way thicker. In this case, it is 200 microns, which is about 0.2 millimeters. This means that the bezel can be refinished or polished without the fear of it really wearing down to the steel, though personally, if you're getting a gold watch, you kind of live with the fact that it's just gonna scratch. And yes, my own personal one has scratched quite a bit, even though I've only owned it for 1 month. Hey, I wear my watches, and I'm sure most of you who own watches know that you should just wear your watches. They're gonna get scratched, it's just something you can't avoid, and so please don't buy a watch just to keep it in the vault or keep it in the drawer. Please wear your watches and make memories with them. The case finishing is mostly horizontal brushing, with polished bevels along the case edges that sort of serve to break up the contrast a little bit, and that extends down to the bracelet as well. There is a signed screw down crown with the Longines wordmark and as well as the logo, and this allows for 100 meters of water resistance, which is more than enough for a pilot's watch. Going back to that bezel for a bit, the bezel action is actually very solid. It's snappy, it's relatively tight, and it doesn't have any play as far as I can tell. The markers are all fully lined up on my watch, and it feels very precise. It is quite satisfying to turn, though admittedly I don't really find much use of a rotating bezel on a GMT watch because I pretty much never track 3 time zones. I have to say that the rose gold really elevates the look of this watch. Compared to the other Zulu Time models, I just feel like this one feels more luxurious, and I guess the price does reflect that, which we'll get into later. But this watch just looks, I don't know, for lack of a better word, fancy. It's not that the regular Zulu Time models just don't look the part, but I would say the rose gold makes it look more elevated, while the others feel more tool-like, which To be fair, this is a pilot's watch and that is what it's meant to do. But that doesn't take away from the actual trueness of this watch, because this is one of the most, and actually probably the most legible watch in my collection. First of all, I have to say the anti-reflective coating on the sapphire is insanely good. The AR coating is on both sides, which means that the top layer can get scratched, but for me, I don't see that as a negative. In fact, I've come to appreciate double-sided AR, and I know some people are more hesitant to that, but I don't know, I just feel like the legibility of a watch is so important, and so if it means I just have to replace the crystal every few years, then so be it. The numerals on the dial are all applied with rose gold accents, and so contrast is no problem, legibility is no problem, and it's super easy to tell the time on this watch. The Longines logo is applied as well, and one thing I realized that this model doesn't have compared to the standard models is that it actually removes the automatic word mark. This is a welcome change. I prefer less text on the dial usually, and so not having that automatic line of text is actually a favorable thing for me. There's still the applied 5 stars, which I know are like a huge divisive point for a lot of people looking to buy the Spirit collection. For me, the 5 stars have never really bothered me to the point where I get frustrated at it. I'm not like, oh man, I just really wish it didn't have the 5 stars. And in fact, I do think that the 5 stars actually give it character. Since the 5 stars are rose gold as well, I think it pairs well with the watch, and so no complaints from me for that. I really love the way this watch looks. It's just super clean on the wrist, and its easy legibility makes it one of the best daily watches for me at least. Especially these days, I've just come to realize that I just keep taking this watch from my collection and wearing it daily. I had a whole week where I just wore it straight and I didn't wear any other watch. It's just been such a great watch for my daily use because of how easy it is to read, how comfortable it is on the wrist, and I just really love the way it looks. Speaking of on the wrist, let's talk about the bracelet. This bracelet is probably the worst part of the watch. Now, that's not to say that the watch isn't comfortable. It's actually really comfortable. But first of all, the watch uses pin links, which even though I actually don't really mind that much, I feel like this bracelet just doesn't feel that solid. It's well finished and it conforms to the wrist really nicely, but it just feels a little bit jangly. And at this price point, jangliness is not what I expect from bracelets. Though, to be fair, I feel like at this price point, it's really hard to beat Tudor for bracelets, and most brands just don't do very good bracelets other than Tudor. The clasp does have 5 points of micro adjust, which does make finding a perfect fit really easy. In fact, it fits perfectly on my wrist, and I don't think most people will have any issues with finding a perfect fit. But this watch doesn't have on-the-fly micro adjust, which some of the newer Spirit watches do. I just really wish they put that Spirit clasp on the Zulu Times and just updated all of them, because I would actually happily pay more for that clasp. But alas, we can't all have our perfect watch, can we? Another thing to keep in mind is actually the end-link to end-link length. As I mentioned earlier, the lug-to-lug of this watch is about 47mm, which might not sound that long, but once you factor in the male end-links from end-link to end-link, it's actually closer to 53mm. On my wrist, I already feel like it wears slightly too large, so if you have a smaller wrist than mine, which is about 16cm, you might start to feel like it's dwarfing your wrist a little bit. So even though the case is 39mm, I would say this watch wears closer to a 40 on the bracelet. Now, if you use a strap, I feel like this problem goes away and it starts to wear closer to its actual size. I really wish the end links weren't so long because they do feel very long, and there is a good reason for their length, which is actually the quick release system that they have. Now, it's really simple. You just press the button and then the bracelet just removes itself. It's actually very convenient and it makes strap swapping like really quick, which is what I've been doing. I've actually put a deluxe rubber strap that I got recently in a different video, and I've been mostly wearing it on that because it's just super comfortable. But yeah, just keep in mind that if you have a smaller wrist, the bracelet might not be a great option, and this watch does come with a free NATO strap in the box, but personally I would just get a nicer strap because I don't think the NATO really works on this watch, and for me that's just not my taste. But yeah, I do think the watch and the bracelet is very comfortable. It just wears a little bit large, but yeah, maybe if you have a smaller wrist than mine and you have a Zulu Time 39mm, please let me know your experience on how it wears on your wrist, because for me, I feel like it barely just fits me, and if I had a smaller wrist, I would start to feel like it's a little bit too big. The movement on the inside is the caliber L844.4 by Longines or by ETA. It is technically by ETA, but it's made exclusively for Longines, so whether you want to qualify it as in-house is really up to you. I don't really want to argue the semantics of it, it's not relevant to me, but all you need to know is that this is a COSC chronometer certified movement, and it does have a true or traveler's GMT function, where if you pull the crown out to the second position, you will actually rotate the local hour hand hand instead of the GMT hand, which makes changing time zones very convenient because you don't have to stop the balance in order to change your time zone. The con is that if you haven't worn this watch for a while and you need to set the date, it is slower than setting a quick set date because you have to rotate the local hour hand to advance the date, though there is a plus side to it, which is that you can actually go backwards on this, which you can't on a quick set date. For me, I really like the convenience of being able to change my time zone, even though I actually don't really travel that much. But yeah, I just think the jumping hour feature is just super useful. I like it way more than having a quick set date. And of course, if I actually travel with this watch, it's really easy for me to change the time zone because I can just rotate the hour hand forward or backward as I like. Something special about the 1925 version is that it's the only Zulu Time variant that has an open case back. Now, I've stated in a previous video that I usually don't care for open case backs, especially if, you know, the movement doesn't look that nice and you can do a really nice closed case back instead. I would always prefer a nice closed case back. That said, this movement does actually look not bad. There's decent finishing with perlage on the base plate, and the PVD rose gold rotor is a nice touch. In fact, it says Zulu Time on it and it has the world map printed on it with the prime meridian line in the middle. Now, of course, at a macro level, this watch is not amazingly finished. It's clearly not the nicest looking, it's not the most refined, but I think for a special edition, it's not bad, and I like that it's a differentiating factor from the regular Zulu Time models. I think the rose gold rotor looks really nice, and so I welcome the open case back, and I do think it's quite nice to see the movement in this one. Alright, so I've talked about the watch for quite a while, so here's the stuff that I like, and here's some of the stuff that I also don't like about the watch. First of all, I absolutely love the way it looks. 2 years ago, I tried the Zulu Time, the green bezel version, in a store, and back then I already thought that it was a nice watch, but I just felt like now isn't the time to buy it, and I didn't feel like it was right for me. And I'm glad I waited because god, I love this variant a lot. The rose gold just looks so good. It stands out even though it's not too flashy. It's definitely the flashiest watch I have in my collection because of the gold, but it's also not too flashy. It's not in your face, and I just feel like it's elevated without being loud. It's super legible as well, so it's actually very practical as a watch. I have no problems reading the time on it. In fact, it's probably the easiest watch I have to read the time, and having a GMT is just such a cool complication. In fact, the GMT is my favorite watch complication. I usually don't care for most other watch complications. I don't like chronographs, I don't care for, you know, a chiming feature, I don't care about a jump hour, and you know, even a date complication is not even that big of a deal to me. But the GMT I've always felt was super cool. Being able to track 2 or 3 time zones on your wrist is such a cool feature to have, even though I'm not a frequent traveler. I think the fit and finish of this watch is really good too. The finishing of the case, the finishing of the bracelet is really good. The bezel action is quite decent as well. It's clicky without any like variance or play. And I do think that overall as a package, it's still quite a good value. But of course, no watch is perfect, and this watch does have a few issues that I have some problems with. For one, the biggest one is actually just the bracelet. The bracelet is comfortable and there's a lot of micro adjustment points to find the perfect fit, something I can't say about some of my other bracelet watches, but I just wish it had the other Spirit clasp with the on-the-fly micro adjust. That would have made it, you know, borderline perfect for me. And you know, obviously using screw links might have been ideal, though that is less of a concern to me. I just wish it wasn't so jangly. It does feel a little bit cheap. But yeah, it's mainly just the clasp. The clasp, if it just had the Spirit clasp with the on-the-fly micro adjustment, I think it just would have been perfect. The end links themselves are also a little bit too long. I just wish they were able to incorporate shorter links or even like female end links while still retaining the quick release system. And I know that's, you know, not an easy task, and I might be asking a lot, but you know, what's done is done. Like, I can't really complain too much about that. It still fits my wrist, but smaller wristed people might have a really hard time wearing this watch. The last thing I also noticed that most people I've seen make videos on the Zulu Time haven't mentioned is actually the rotor noise. Now, I don't normally notice rotor noise. In fact, it's usually only noticeable for me in like Miyota movements, like whether it be the 8 or 9 series where they have the unidirectional rotors. And this one in particular, even though it's a bidirectional winding rotor, it's actually quite loud. Like, I would just be like, you know, doing this, moving my wrist, like, and I just hear it. Like, I can hear it like here. This is not something I noticed on most of my other watches, and so I just had to point it out. Like, this does have a loud rotor, at least comparatively, and I'm not sure if this is exclusive to the 1925 variant because this has the open case back, whereas the standard versions have the closed case backs. I'm not sure if it's any better on those. So if you guys have any experience with your Spirit Zulu Times, such as the standard version or even your 1925 variant, if you have one, please let me know, because I would like to know if the loud rotor is like common amongst all of the models, because yeah, it's something I noticed. The last thing I have to mention is price. Now I'll put the price up like on the screen here, but the watch, at least in Singapore where I am, costs 6,000 Singapore dollars, and that is significantly more than the standard variants. Now granted, you are paying more for the gold bezel, the special edition case back, as well as the special edition box, something I haven't mentioned yet. The special edition box, you know, this is not the only model that uses this box, but this is the only one that has the Spirit Zulu Time badge on it, which I thought was pretty cool. But yeah, I do think that you are paying quite a bit of tax for the anniversary badge. Not that I think that it's unjustified, because I do think that this watch is still a great value, and I just think there's nothing like it on the market right now. It just looks so good, and I just don't think that any other true GMT options at this price point look anywhere near as good as this one. Like, if you gave me the Tudor Black Bay GMT or the Black Bay 58 GMT versus this one, I would pick this one any day of the week. That said, it is starting to creep into a pretty high price point, and so for people who are, you know, still looking for a good value, I would steer you away from the 1925 variant to the standard Zulu Time, because the standard Zulu Time is effectively the same watch, it just looks slightly different. In fact, it has a more durable bezel insert because it's sapphire instead of the gold one that's on here. So if you actually like the look of those better, then you should get those. However, I just have to clarify that this is my favorite version of the Spirit Zulu Time. And don't get me wrong, I really like all the other models too. I think they all look great, especially that green bezel and the titanium one. I really love the titanium one. Like, if I didn't get this one, the titanium one is probably the one I would get. And so even if it came down to my wallet, I would personally put out the money for this one. But I understand why people would be a bit turned off by the price. But hey, overall, I just can't fault this watch. Like, I love this watch. And if you've been considering the 1925 version, please go down to your local Longines boutique or AD to give it a try, because I just think it's so beautiful. It's way more beautiful in person. If you think it looks beautiful in the photos, it looks even better in real life. I think the quality is definitely there. The movement is fantastic. Almost everything about this watch is fantastic, and so I think this is a great watch, and Longines is such a great brand. In fact, it's my favorite Swiss brand. So I really hope Longines keeps it up and keeps releasing bangers like these, because I absolutely love Longines and I love to see what they have next in store for us. If you guys enjoyed this review, please leave a like and subscribe. Comment down your thoughts on this watch. Maybe if you have a Zulu Time, let me know your experience as well. And I love to read all the comments. In fact, I do read all of the comments. The channel's been doing really well over the last few weeks, even though I just started it. So I'm very grateful for all the support on my videos, and I can't wait to bring you all more watch content in the future. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Take care.